Hello, friends. Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast by English Finders. I'm Amelia, and as always, I'm thrilled to have you with us today.
And I'm Brian. Thanks for tuning in. We're really excited about today's episode because we're diving into a topic that can make a huge difference in your English learning journey.
That's right, Brian. Today, we're going to talk about how to make a reading habit in English. Whether you're just starting out or looking to improve your skills, developing a consistent reading habit can be a game changer.
Absolutely. Reading in English not only helps you build vocabulary and improve comprehension, but it also enhances your overall fluency and confidence.
And the best part? It doesn't have to be a chore. We're going to share some practical tips and strategies to help you make reading an enjoyable and regular part of your routine.
We'll also explore how to choose the right materials, set realistic goals, and keep yourself motivated along the way. We also have some great real-life dialogues and key vocabulary words lined up to help you apply what you learn.
So, stick around because by the end of this episode, you'll have everything you need to start or strengthen your reading habit in English.
Let's get started.
All right, let's dive into today's main topic, how to make a reading habit in English. We all know that reading is essential for improving your language skills, but the challenge lies in making it a consistent part of your life. So, Brian, why do you think developing a reading habit is so crucial for English learners?
Great question, Amelia. Reading in English exposes you to new vocabulary, sentence structures, and idiomatic expressions that you might not encounter in everyday conversations. It's like immersing yourself in the language without having to travel. Reading regularly also helps you improve your comprehension, which in turn boosts your confidence when speaking or writing in English.
Exactly. It's one of the best ways to get comfortable with the language. But starting a reading habit can feel overwhelming, especially if you're not sure where to begin. So, let's break it down step by step. First, let's talk about choosing the right materials. How do you recommend learners select what to read?
It's important to choose materials that match your current level of English. If you pick something too difficult, you might get frustrated and give up. Start with books, articles, or even blogs that are slightly above your comfort zone but still manageable. This way, you're challenging yourself but not to the point of frustration. And don't limit yourself to just one type of material. Variety is key. Try fiction, nonfiction, news articles, or even graphic novels.
I love that point about variety, Brian. Reading different genres and formats can keep things interesting and prevent the habit from becoming monotonous. Now, let's move on to setting realistic goals. It's easy to get excited and set high targets, but that can sometimes lead to burnout. What's your advice on setting achievable goals?
Start small. It's better to set a goal that you can consistently meet than to aim too high and feel discouraged. For example, instead of committing to reading a whole book in a week, start with 10 to 15 minutes of reading each day. As you get more comfortable, you can gradually increase the time or number of pages you read. The key is to make it manageable and something you look forward to rather than a chore.
That's so true. Small, consistent efforts add up over time. And to help with consistency, it's important to create a reading schedule. Find a time of day when you're most relaxed and can focus. Whether it's in the morning with a cup of coffee or before bed, making it a routine can help solidify the habit. What are some tips you have for sticking to a reading schedule?
One tip is to tie your reading time to another habit you already have. For example, if you have a morning routine that includes breakfast, add 10 minutes of reading right after you finish eating. By linking it to something you do every day, you're more likely to stick with it. Also, make sure your reading materials are easily accessible. Keep your book or e-reader on your nightstand or carry it in your bag, so you can read whenever you have a spare moment.
That's a great strategy. Keeping it convenient makes a big difference. But what about making reading enjoyable? Sometimes, people struggle with sticking to a reading habit because they find it boring or difficult. How can they make it more engaging?
Choosing content that genuinely interests you is key. Don't force yourself to read something just because you think it's what you should be reading. If you're passionate about a particular topic, whether it's travel, history, or science, find books or articles on those subjects. Also, try mixing up your reading with different formats like audiobooks or podcasts with transcripts. Sometimes, listening to a story while reading along can enhance the experience and help you understand better.
I agree, Brian. And tracking your progress can also add an element of fun and motivation. You can keep a reading journal or use an app to log the books you've read and your thoughts on them. It's satisfying to see how much you've accomplished over time. It also helps you reflect on what you've learned.
Absolutely. Tracking progress not only keeps you motivated, but also gives you a sense of achievement. And don't be afraid to reward yourself for reaching milestones, like finishing a book or sticking to your reading schedule for a month. Rewards can be a great way to reinforce the habit.
Rewards definitely help. Lastly, let's talk about using additional resources. Sometimes, even with all the right strategies, learners might still struggle with understanding certain texts. What resources would you recommend to support their reading?
A good dictionary is a must, especially one that provides example sentences to help you understand how words are used in context. You can also use language learning apps that offer features like built-in translations or definitions. Another helpful resource is joining a reading group or online forum where you can discuss what you've read with others. This not only improves comprehension but also makes the reading experience more social and enjoyable.
Great suggestions, Brian. Reading doesn't have to be a solitary activity. Sharing your thoughts with others can make it even more rewarding. And remember, the goal is to enjoy the process and make gradual progress. Over time, you'll notice a significant improvement in your language skills.
Exactly. So, if you're looking to build or strengthen your reading habit in English, start small, choose materials you enjoy, and be consistent. With time and practice, it will become a natural part of your daily routine.
Now that we've covered the strategies for building a reading habit, let's hear how these tips can be applied in real life. We've got 2 dialogues lined up between friends who are working on improving their reading habits in English. Let's listen in.
Hey Liam. How's your English reading going? You mentioned you were trying to read more regularly.
Oh, hey Lisa. Honestly, not great. I started reading this book, but I barely made it past the first few chapters. I keep getting distracted, and before I know it, days have gone by without reading a single page.
I totally get that. It's tough to stay consistent, especially when life gets busy. I used to struggle with that too. Have you tried setting smaller, daily goals?
Not really. I thought I'd just read whenever I had time, but that hasn't been working out too well.
Maybe try setting aside just 10 or 15 minutes a day. I started doing that with my morning coffee. It's not a lot, but it helps me stay on track. Once you get into the habit, you might want to read more.
That sounds doable. I guess I've been thinking I need to read for hours at a time, but starting small makes sense. How do you choose what to read? I feel like I lose interest quickly.
I pick books that really interest me. Right now, I'm reading a mystery novel, and it's hard to put down. Maybe you could try a different genre or even short stories to keep things fresh. The important thing is to enjoy what you're reading.
You're right. I think I'll start with something lighter, maybe some articles or short stories, and see how that goes. Thanks for the tips, Lisa.
No problem, Liam. Just remember, it's about making reading a habit, not a chore. Start small, and before you know it, it'll become part of your routine.
In that first dialogue, we heard how Lisa helped Liam realize that starting with small, manageable goals can make a big difference. Now, let's listen to another scenario where 2 friends share their reading recommendations and how they've integrated reading into their daily lives.
Hey, Lucas. What are you reading these days?
Hey, Sophie. I just started this fascinating book on space exploration. It's a bit challenging, but I'm loving it. How about you?
I'm reading a historical fiction novel set in ancient Rome. It's so immersive. I've been trying to read for at least 20 minutes before bed every night. It's a great way to wind down.
That sounds interesting. I've been trying to get more reading in too. I've found that reading during my commute works well for me. It's about a 30-minute ride, so I get a good chunk of reading done each day.
That's a smart use of time. I used to try reading on the bus, but I'd always get distracted. Now I just read at night when it's quiet. Have you tried using any apps to track your progress? I started using one recently and it's pretty motivating.
Yeah, I've been using an app too. It's nice to see how many books I've read and to set goals for the year. It's also fun to see recommendations based on what I've finished.
Exactly. And it's a great way to stay accountable. I also joined an online book club where we discuss what we're reading. It's nice to have that community and to get different perspectives on the same book.
That's awesome. I've been thinking about joining one too. Sometimes, talking about a book with others really deepens your understanding of it.
Definitely. It's another way to make reading more social and enjoyable. We should exchange book recommendations sometime. I'd love to hear more about that space exploration book you're reading.
For sure. And I'd love to hear more about your historical fiction novel. Maybe we could even start a little reading challenge between us. See who can finish their book first.
You're on. Let's make it a fun way to keep each other motivated.
In this second dialogue, Sophie and Lucas shared how they've made reading a regular part of their day by finding the right times to read and using tools like apps and book clubs to stay motivated. They also showed how sharing the reading experience with others can make it even more enjoyable.
Exactly, Amelia. Both dialogues highlight that everyone's reading habit can look a little different, and that's okay. The key is finding what works for you and sticking with it. Whether it's a few minutes in the morning, during your commute, or before bed, there's always a way to make reading fit into your routine.
Now it's time to explore some key vocabulary words that came up in our discussion today. Understanding these words will help you not only improve your English, but also get more out of your reading experience. We've chosen 5 words and phrases that are essential for anyone looking to build a reading habit. Let's dive in.
Our first word is comprehension.
Comprehension refers to the ability to understand and grasp the meaning of what you're reading. It's a critical skill, especially when reading in a second language. The better your comprehension, the more enjoyable and beneficial your reading will be.
Example. Improving your comprehension skills can make reading in English more enjoyable.
Our next word is fluency.
Fluency in reading means being able to read smoothly and accurately, without having to stop frequently to decode words. When you're fluent, you can focus more on the meaning of the text rather than getting stuck on individual words.
Example, reading regularly helps improve your fluency in English.
Our third word is engaging.
When something is engaging, it's interesting and holds your attention. Finding engaging reading materials is key to developing a reading habit because it makes the process enjoyable rather than a chore.
Example. It's important to choose engaging books to keep your reading habit alive.
Now, let's talk about consistency.
Consistency means doing something regularly and repeatedly over time. When it comes to building a reading habit, consistency is more important than reading for long periods all at once.
Example, consistency is key when trying to build a reading habit.
Our final word is cognitive.
Cognitive refers to mental processes like thinking, understanding, learning, and remembering. Reading in a second language is a great cognitive exercise because it challenges your brain and helps improve your overall mental agility.
Example. Reading in a second language enhances cognitive abilities.
And there you have it, 5 key vocabulary words that are important not just for this episode, but for your overall English learning journey. Understanding and using these words will help you talk about your reading habits and your progress more confidently.
We hope you'll keep these words in mind as you continue to build your reading habit. And remember, the more you read, the more you'll see these words in context, which will help reinforce their meanings.
We've covered a lot of ground today on how to make a reading habit in English, and we hope you found the tips and strategies helpful. Whether you're just starting out or looking to strengthen your existing habit, the key takeaway is that reading should be something you enjoy and look forward to.
That's right, Amelia. Remember, building a reading habit doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start with small, manageable goals, choose materials that genuinely interest you, and be consistent. Over time, reading in English will become a natural and rewarding part of your daily routine.
And don't forget to track your progress and celebrate your milestones. Whether it's finishing a book, improving your comprehension, or simply reading a little bit every day, every step forward is worth acknowledging.
Exactly. And as we discussed, there are plenty of tools and resources to help you along the way, from reading apps to online book clubs. The more you engage with the language, the more confident and fluent you'll become.
We also hope the real-life dialogues and vocabulary section gave you some practical insights that you can apply right away. It's all about making the process enjoyable and seeing the benefits over time.
Thank you for joining us today. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any questions, comments, or even book recommendations, feel free to reach out to us.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear how your reading journey is going. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it with others who might benefit from it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.
Until next time, keep reading, stay curious, and keep learning. We're here to support you every step of the way.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.